Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 281. And in today's episode, let's just take just a few seconds to talk about having a growth mindset. So, as we progress through life, certainly not just with safety, but with many areas in life, we're going to come up against challenges, things that we don't think we're ready to do, things that we're struggling with, topics that we're not familiar with. I'd like everybody just to think about a growth mindset. You're going to say, okay, I don't know what this area is, but I'm going to sit down, study hard, work hard, figure it out. You're going to be a figure it out person. So if we were going to have a fixed mindset, we would say, oh, that's way too hard. I'm not going to do this. Um, so think about it with the growth mindset. Challenges are going to be out there. Things are not familiar. So much like when I did this podcast here, well, I didn't even know how to even get the computer fired up to even say, so how do I even do this? How do I even put something out there? How do I upload? Well, just figure it out. So the same thing at work. There's going to be times where hazards come up, things are changed and not changed in a proactive way. If somebody says, oh, I'm just going to move equipment A to a new spot. I bought something really cheap and oh, it doesn't have a lot of the safety things that it really needs. So we're going to have to sit down and figure it out. If you have a growth mindset, you're going to say, I have this opportunity, I have this challenge in front of me. I'm going to learn and grow from this. So if you had a fixed mindset, what you would say is, well, it's not safe. We're not going to use, we just won't use it. Shut down the operation. That's it. We're done. You know. So that is a strategy out there. That is a strategy that might have to be used if it's something super extreme until you come up with a plan. Not that is the plan. That is the end all be all out there. So, and it's taken me a number of years to really embrace this too, because as I've as I've said on many episodes, as a young man, I was convinced that I was so smart, I knew it all. I'm not going to make any mistakes at work. You know, I know it all. I'm going to be fine. So now that I've really embraced this growth mindset over these last 30 years, I think I make a lot less mistakes, but I'm going to anyway. There's going to be times that when I look at a uh, hazard that I come away with something that maybe another safety professional would say that they view that as either more or less of a hazard. That doesn't mean that either one's right or wrong. We're bringing our own experiences to the table. But if I had a fixed mindset, I would say, oh, hazard means we just don't do it. So as we go through life, I'd love to say that we're never going to get hurt. Everybody views safety as the number one thing, and we're not going to, but we all know there's a lot of competing challenges out there for energy, time, money. The company, of course, is very focused on the company has to survive. So risk, of course, I'd like to say is going to be constant across the company. It's not always constant. Just like at times, the person in the front office is not really connected to the factory floor. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person. They're just not connected to it. So when we talk about hazards and that kind of, they just don't always get that kind of stuff done. You know. So I want everybody just to kind of sit down and think about is this something that you'd like to embrace? Is this something that we as safety professionals, instead of having a fixed mindset of hazard equals bad equals we will never do this, things are now shut down, all the other things into, all right, how do we fix this problem? How do, how do we be that person that we will figure it out then? So, and for me, that has also helped out, of course, obviously in my personal life too, because I do a lot of things um, that I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But I will sit down, I will figure it out, I will make this thing work, I will make this thing work. You know? So, and one that really comes to mind is I won't go into, of course, the car and everything else, but my heater broke in my car. So, to me, I was like, oh, this is going to be such a hard project. There's no way that I could ever do this because I went into this process with a fixed mindset, you know. And the fixed mindset was, oh, I haven't worked on cars since I was 16. And now when I look at cars at almost 60, I'm like, whoa, when you open up the hood and you see everything in there, I was like, nope, I got to go take it to a shop. Then when the shop came back with a cost that was pretty close equal to what the car is even worth. And then I thought, gosh, I wonder if I could find a video on this. Has anybody else ever fixed this? And I found a lot of great videos, and it was really super easy to fix. Doesn't mean it wasn't frustrating because I was way out of my comfort zone then. So, but something that was just a cost I was not willing to bear. I was willing to drive in a cold car for the rest of the time I had the car. Um, I was able to go out, buy the parts. Of course, I had to buy a couple of specialty hand tools, all that kind of stuff then too. Watch the video a couple times, tried to look at multiple videos from multiple angles because I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So I want to kind of like, how do I get as much knowledge as possible? And then I'm going to go tackle this problem. It doesn't mean that I'm going to avoid the problem, but I'm going to get as much knowledge as I can and say, I'm ready to get started then. So when all was said and done, by the time I ordered everything, it was about 100 hours in parts. It took me about 2 hours. And when I sat down and looked at what the shop was going to charge me. Now, of course, the shop was using different parts, and of course, they're obviously skilled. They have overhead, they have rent to pay. So I get that it's not going to be um, my my fix for $100 is not $100 that they should charge me. So I totally understand the difference in cost and all that, um, but that was just one example that I can think of that because I hadn't messed with cars close to do some fuzzy math, close to 40 years, I kind of thought, I'm sorry, 35 years. I thought, oh, there's no way I can do it. Look at how it's changed. They don't have the carburetor I'm used to. They just don't have. But when I really sat down and thought about it, I could make this happen. So um, let's go ahead there and wrap it up because now I think I'm just starting to kind of wander off then. So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We talked about the growth mindset out there. So that's something that has not just helped me at work, of course, but just in my personal life is just to sit down and be that I will figure it out guy. I don't know what I'm doing, but guess what? I will gather the knowledge, the tools. I will do whatever it takes. I will figure this thing out and I will make it work then. So with that, let's wrap it up. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dr. David Ayers. Have a safe day.